Good morning and welcome back to Coffee with Toffees on this October 13th. It is a Monday show, which means figuring out what happened over the weekend. And it's been kind of a quiet weekend, other than ESL. So it should be a pretty quick show. I do have a special guest in studio, and we'll get to that in just a second. As you always know, my name is Toffees. You can find me at Toffees_Dota2 for updates on casting as well as the show. If you want to listen and it's not live, you can follow the podcast. You can get the RSS feed. You get the YouTubes. It's all over on SoundCloud.com /Toffees_Dota2, and that's where we keep all of the uploads, so you can get anything, anytime, past interviews as well. And obviously, if you want to keep the show advertising free, we're trying to keep the sponsors out, keep it independent. I've got some really encouraging words from a lot of people lately, and that's wonderful. But you can also send some encouraging support over at patreon.com/Toffees, and that's like $1, $2 to help keep the show running, cover costs, and keep me feeling good about doing my research when we do about 2 hours of research for a show. So that's always appreciated. Also, a big announcement: we hit our $50 stretch goal. We're we're on our way to 75. When we do hit that stretch goal, I'm going to make T-shirts for everybody. I'm going to get a graphic designer on board to do that, and that way you can get a T-shirt as a donation reward, and then so on. Obviously, there's more stretch goals past that, but T-shirts the next big one. Now, I'm joined today in studio by a friend of the show, Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at GotCowDota, and he's here to talk a little bit about ESL. Now, what I want you guys to understand is that last week, and I think, Gorgon, you probably listen to some of this, I had some pretty massive interviews that when I say massive, I mean both in terms of like listeners, retweets, all kinds of stuff. This will probably be a pretty quiet week this week. I
promise you, this will not be one of those interviews.
This is going to be a quieter week. I'm going to bring in friends of the show. We're going to focus on updates to the Dota community. It should be a lot of fun. And then I will tell you guys, for those of you who are my interview fans, I say I love doing the Toffee interviews. We are talking to a couple of Tier 1 teams right now about getting some of their players on. They've contacted us and said they'd be interested. We just have to write up some question templates to make them feel better about sending somebody over to the show. So there will be some big guests in the near future. Not that Gorgon isn't, but what I mean is those guys who do make millions of dollars to play Dota instead of me and Gorgon, who make peanuts, who literally get paid in back rubs sometimes.
I'm not a big guest either, because I'm like a cheap date. Like, you can have me anytime.
Right.
I was the first guest on the show for I think the first 2 or 3 weeks I was the guest every day.
Right.
So obviously you can have me on whenever the hell you want. So that's not anything surprising.
And I think you still work for peanuts. Or, not when I say peanuts, I don't mean like small amounts of money. I mean like literal peanuts.
It's watermelons, but yeah, it's basically the same thing.
All right, so Gorgon's here, guys. We'll go to the segments, and we're going to talk to him about what it's like to be on the ground. He went to ESL for JD, got the pleasure of interviewing some folks, doing the behind-the-scenes reporting, which means that we get an all-access pass, essentially. So we thought that that'd be fun to talk about. First thing up, as always, pro news. Nada. There's really nothing. Other than the fact that ESL went on, there weren't a lot of roster changes. The biggest news that was sort of revealed this weekend was the fact that essentially we found out what happened to Navi US. But if you're listening to the show, well, you found out here. So it's not really worth me talking about. So there's no pro news. So let's roll through to tournament news. Things that you probably would be interested in knowing. Pain beats Isurus. Is it Isurus? Isurus. So it's Isurus wins the Brazil Game Cup. I know that a lot of our viewers probably didn't even know that this tournament was going on. It was $16,500, so that's not a bad prize pool at all. But they beat out the big one. I think is that Pain, a team that's not quite as well known in the long run, beat a team like Isurus, who was in the Dota 2 international qualifiers at the beginning of this year. So Pain looking very strong to come out of that South American region. Have you had a chance to watch a lot of Pain games lately, Gorgon?
I haven't. I've been seeing them pop up a lot more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a region that I follow specifically in that I cast it a fair amount, but I don't really follow it that hard. I know that Pride is a really good player. Like I've seen him play, and he's really impressive. But with the exception of that, I don't really know anything about the team. Well, The other thing is, I mean, Isurus has never been that honestly impressive a team to me, even for the skill level that we're usually talking about when we're talking about South American teams.
Right.
They were only added to the qualifiers because of the complications with what was it? EG or something? No, there
was
were
Revenge. It was Revenge.
Revenge. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So there were complications, and then they needed a team, and Isurus was the only the South American team at the time that had a structured organization behind it. That's basically what it is. It was the organization that got them, and not their known play style or anything. So I think that they've kind of bitten off a little bit more than they can chew. As a team, they'd probably be better off if people didn't know them right now. You know what I mean? And they had this time to kind of incubate.
Makes sense.
And work their way up. But instead, they kind of went into the TI qualifiers with absolutely no shot of being successful. And now people kind of know them as that team that failed at TI qualifiers. And tournaments know them as a team that was in the TI qualifiers. So they're getting opportunities in tournaments, but against teams that are better than them. So I don't know. I'd like to see them go boot camp or something because they've got potential, but they're not there. You know, they're just not ready.
What I'm getting from Drag and Drop over in Twitch chat, for those of you guys who are watching on the replays, we do the show live. It's just really early in the morning, so a lot of folks don't come. Drag and Drop, however, is joining us, and he said that Pain is essentially C and B reboot. Right. So I had completely forgot about that. So yeah, it's King RD, Ned, 4DR, Baga, minus... or Sans Tavo is basically it. So minus that's Tavo, it's essentially the same team. And that's true. And if that's the case, then I'm not surprised because CNB is one of those teams that's always been sort of very competitive over in the South American scene. So I'm glad to see them doing well, getting some cash in their pockets after leaving the CNB brand, because CNB did do a full reboot. I remember we talked about that about 2 weeks ago. And that new CNB team lost in the first round and immediately got knocked out of the losers bracket. So they're not doing nearly as well as the Pain counterparts who are searching for, from what I understand, a new sponsor. So that is that elite tournament. Let's roll over to D2CL, as all kinds of crazy has been going on behind the scenes while we were all prepping for ESL. This is the league where Alliance had to bow out. All of their games became forfeit. What that essentially did is it put Empire up at 9 points and guaranteed that they advanced to the next round. But now what we're looking at is Na'Vi versus Virtus Pro to like sort of try to lock up the last position. There's a, what is it, a 4-way tie right now for 4th place. So I pulled up the website, and I'll go through and read it for you guys. Basically, if Na'Vi goes 2-0 and you see a tie between Fnatic and the Power Rangers, Na'Vi will move on. If Na'Vi goes 1-1 with Virtus Pro and you get a tie between Virtus Pro, Power Rangers, and Fnatic, then Na'Vi moves on. But if Na'Vi loses 0-2 to Virtus Pro and there's a tie between Na'Vi, Power Rangers, and or Fnatic games, then VP will be moving on. So long story short, there is a ridiculously confusing tiebreaker couple of matches going on in the D2CL, and they should be good because they're competing to see who actually moves on to the big ticket games. So it might be worth watching. I myself am having trouble wrapping my head around exactly how the tiebreaker's falling out. This Alliance thing sort of threw me into a tailspin regarding this tournament.
Yeah, this is not a tournament that I've been following at all. Unfortunately, I just haven't had time. There's only so much day, even for guys like us, and this is one of the ones that I've decided has to fall through the cracks. I'll tune in once the qualifiers are over. You know what I mean? Once it gets to whoever's doing well, that's when I'll get it. Especially because at these days, for me to get into a tournament, I've got to be running stats for that tournament and writing articles and stuff. So I've really got to be into a tournament when I'm into a tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, and D2CL has been plagued, I think, the whole season with issues. I remember this is the group where the Chinese teams dropped out because they couldn't do the LAN final, the disqualifications of Alliance, the kind of issues with DDoSing, and a lot of things that have sort of just caused trouble with this tournament. So I wonder if Valve will give us a free redemption chest for this one as well. That'd be really nice. By the way, interesting thing that Valve did regarding ESL, I don't know if, did you notice that they gave you a free redemption token if you purchased a ticket to ESL to make up for some of the connection issues?
Is that where that came from?
That's
Because
where
I
that
came
came from.
home. I haven't played Dota in like 2
Yeah.
weeks, right? I came home and signed on to play the one game that I was going to play for the last 2 weeks, and I had this magical coin, and I clicked it on. I had no idea where it came from. I even asked Feeder New, who's like my resident guru. Anytime I've got questions about items at all in the game, I asked Feeder New because she knows everything, and she didn't know where it came from. So apparently that's where it's from.
A side note for all you guys, in the last patch where they made some changes to the DDoS protection system, if you had a WCA ticket purchased or an ESL ticket purchased, they gave you a token to redeem for a free chest to make up for some of the issues. That said, those of us who cast ESL, like myself and Gorgon, and didn't actually get around to buying tickets, benefited from a really cool chest for
I got. But then, can I just say, for my one game, basically, I think my one game in the last 2 weeks, I got that cool chest, but then I got matchmaking set up against Draskell for my one game on his stream. So it's like, I got the chest, but
Then you got rocked.
For the next 2 weeks, the one game that I played is going to be me getting rocked in the offlane against Draskell.
Nice. Lucky you, sir. So that is the Dota C2 Champions League. Let's roll over to Synergy Cup, which is in full force over at Join Dota right now. Interesting thing about Synergy Cup, and the games haven't been as competitive as I'd like them to be. I've got the groups pulled up right now. It's pretty spread out with a couple of teams really rising to the top. But here's the story. Join Dota actually pursued it, and I think it's a really good one. Is that on top of Group A is 4 anchors plus C Captain, and on top of Group B is Legends. Both of these are teams that are created by former Fnatic players. So right now, Fnatic players, we've got the Secret Crew, who is part of arguably one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the world right now. They haven't taken the major, they did get knocked out, but we can all agree that their performance is pretty phenomenal. And on the other side, Synergy has these 2 new teams that are dominating the league, and these aren't all tier 2 groups. Like, there's some pretty big teams like Team Empire and VPP playing inside of the Synergy League. So Fnatic, what should I say? Fnatic 2.0 or after Fnatic doing very well for themselves as they've all gone off on their own. Let's see. So that is the update on Synergy. Keep an eye on that. Honestly, I think, in my opinion, Legends or Lions, I guess, is it's a Swedish way of saying it, is a up-and-coming team to watch. Like, these guys put themselves together. They've been very, very effective in the way that they play, and they're a team that I look forward to keeping my eye on going forward. Just so that you guys know, their roster is Era is their captain, and you've got Jonas, Somfan, My Nuts, Quicks, and Minnie who play as their team. Also worth noting that casting My Nuts is pretty hilarious. It's absolutely true, because you say things like, he's got my nuts caught in a chronosphere, and everybody chuckles on stream. So thank you to My Nuts for giving us that little gem. Alright, so that's the Synergy Cup. Let's go. And, okay, so over in Twitch, Pockets is talking a little bit about the fact that EG is maybe stronger than Team Secret, even though Team Secret maybe beats them on paper. And my argument would simply be this. EG has been playing together a lot longer. I think EG is a phenomenal team. Their synergy is very strong, but Secret's only been together officially for, 4 months now, I think, after since the reshuffle. So give them a couple more months to fine-tune the synergy the way that EG has, and I think Secret's going to be a nightmare to watch. All of their guys are a nightmare to fight, I should say. All of their players, to me, thrive in the 6.82 environment, and I think that's going to be really big for them as they go forward in this in the new world of Dota.
I would probably right now, in this moment, rank them 4th.
Okay.
But I think that they probably will be top 3 in the world by the end of this patch if they keep doing what they're doing. I'd probably put them beneath Newbie, VG, and EG.
Okay.
I think all 3 of those teams can probably pretty consistently take them down. But they have been doing very, very well. The problem is they haven't really been playing very, very much.
Right.
So it's an artificial inflation due to the fact that they've mostly just played against teams that are very clearly not quite up to their level, which are most of the teams in the world at the current moment.
Right. So that said, guys, let's move into ESL. If you don't want to know who won, tough shit, because you're going to hear it if you're on the show today. VG won the tournament. ESL New York goes their way. It was a pretty great tournament, I thought, start to finish, plagued with a couple of connection issues and some other things, but we'll get into that. So ESL goes to VG. They take home the big pot. They actually played a really nice final game and took the win over EG. It was so much fun. I think it was really cool to be in New York and or to listen to the chanting while I was watching the stream. And it was a good game. That said, though, Gorgon, you were the one who was there. You're the guy who got to sit in the stadium, who got to go backstage. So now that we're done with the tournament news, tell me a little bit about the experience of being at ESL New York.
It was great. I mean, it was a really energetic crowd, day 2. Day 1 was a little less energetic. People, a lot, because it was a Thursday, a lot of the people with tickets didn't end up showing up. The crowd was mostly empty. That's why on Join Dota, you'll notice we didn't actually have crowd shots. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but we don't have any crowd shots day 1 because it's not even half full. But day 2, crowd kind of picked up. The games got really, really good game 2, or day 2.
Right.
The entire finals. If you guys did not watch those finals, just go in and check them out because they are a lot of very high skill cap plays all in a row.
Yeah.
And it made it a blast. But, I spent almost the whole time working.
Right.
So I went out there and I was out there with 2 other people from Join Dota.
Okay.
One of whom basically quit Join Dota about 2 hours into being there, so he didn't do anything to help. And then one of whom, he was there specifically because he lived in New York, and his job was to get me to and from ESL and give me a place to stay. So in terms of actually functionally getting coverage done, I was the one who was there.
Right.
So I was trying to do 3 or 4 people's worth of work by myself. In addition, my microphone stopped working or was not working when I got off the plane. So doing interviews was an entire pain.
Okay.
So I started trying to do interviews with the onboard mic, and I did an interview with IX Mike and Ush 3 times in different locations, trying to find someplace wide enough, I swear. So then I watched it, from each location. And those guys were absolutely bosses, by the way. They were like, oh yeah, no, we have to play later, but let's go do another 30-minute interview in a different location, the exact same questions, and see if we can get another. They just kind of let me do it. And then we just hung out in the crowd and watched for about an hour before I had to go back to work. So yeah, no, they were really great. Definitely make sure you guys follow IX Mike and Ush, who actually doesn't really get that many follows. So go over on Twitter and follow him.
He doesn't.
He's an amazing player.
He really is,
and he's really nice. And he's just he's this young guy with this great attitude. So you guys should figure it out. But anyway, and then I went back. I ran around New York for about. I want to say about an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes, literally running from store to store, looking for a place that sells microphones. Because Madison Square Gardens is a block and a half away from the biggest camera store in the nation.
Right.
I don't know if you know this, B&H. It's like a block and a half away. And I was like, when I left here, because I had to leave with all my equipment in one bag along with all my clothing.
Right.
Because I had to fly, and I couldn't afford to fly and get my own carry-on bag or a second bag.
Right.
So I couldn't bring a tripod because it wouldn't fit in the bag. I couldn't bring backup microphones. I couldn't bring a second camera. Any of that stuff, any of that equipment that I might have at my place, I couldn't bring. And JD wasn't providing any because they were coming from Europe.
Right.
So JD provided me with no equipment. I was trying to get out there with as much as I could, but I figured, all right, I'll buy. It'll be cheaper to buy stuff at B&H. And they were actually down on vacation. The whole store was shut down. So I'm running from place to place, trying to find a bloody microphone. I ran more than 20 blocks.
Wow.
And then got back with a microphone that would plug in my computer, just so that I could try and get some interviews. And that worked. But by the time I got back, the guy that I was with was not going to be was not going to be doing anything. So. Just getting somebody to hold the camera, because I didn't have a damn tripod, because once again, traveling across the country for the event, the whole thing was kind of a nightmare day 1 for me, to be honest. But I did manage to get an interview with FNG and Black, both of whom were extremely gracious. I mean, FNG came and talked to me, having no goddamn idea who I am, because he's, he doesn't read English coverage. Some of the players know who I am, at least abstractly, because they read my articles on Join Dota, or they've seen me cast them before. But FNG, he has no idea who I am. And he, came up because I asked ESL to send somebody from Navi up if they're willing. And he was the guy who was like, yeah, man, interview me. And he was great about it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on the Join Dota YouTube.
Absolutely.
Black also. Not only did Black was willing to interview with me, but there was no interview section set aside for press.
Okay.
So in order to get a quiet area at ESL, the way ESL was set up, and this was extremely poorly designed in my opinion, but the only quiet area for me to get Black to required me to walk him through the fans.
Really?
Yeah.
So you basically had to take him through.
I had to take him through the gauntlet, and people noticed him because he's wearing his green 80s robot fighting tracksuit or whatever that thing is. It stands out, man.
Right.
So I'm walking through, and halfway through he gets swarmed, and he signed, and he stood there after he played a game. He just wanted to go. He did 3 interviews before me with other organizations, and now he's signing away in the area right next to the secret shop, because we had to walk right through the secret shop in order to get to the only quiet place in existence at Madison Square.
Interesting.
And he was just a total boss about it too. Like the guy just wanted to make everyone happy. He was smiling the whole time. I mean, obviously this had to be a huge pain for him.
Right.
And a huge, he wasn't able to eat or anything because we just wanted to get it done. And yeah, no, I don't know. So big props to Black, and you can see the unedited interview on Join Dota. And then, I don't know. Day 1 was good, but I basically didn't watch any Dota day 1.
So Black confirmed a good guy.
Yeah.
What was the vibe like at Madison Square Garden? Did you? I mean, in terms of the LAN, as far as size and scape and just excitement of the people there, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, a lot of the listeners here, and myself included, probably haven't had the chance to go to something like this and are trying to decide next time it comes around, is it worth the time and is it worth the money to get ourselves to something like this?
Man, it was a Black. After that Black interview, I basically just said, I'm just going to get photos and be real. And that's how I'm going to justify my trip out here, because I can't do this anymore. So at that point in time, I hung out in the Players Lounge and just networked with players. I spent 2 hours talking with Fogged and some of Navi US up in the Players Lounge, and and basically just hung out there. The day 2, I just did photos out in the crowd and hung out in the crowd and had a good time. And it's basically like a sporting event.
Right.
It sounds obvious, but you sit down, you can't hear the announcer, but what you lose in the announcer, like Toby, you couldn't hear at all, basically, when you're out in the crowd. But what you lose in that, you make up for in the excitement of the crowd.
Right.
And day 2 was so much better than day 1 because it was a Friday and people were coming out. It was just about a full auditorium, which means we had over 5,000 people crammed in there.
Okay.
And it's it's a 5,000 plus or minus a couple hundred person auditorium, the theater at Madison Square. And this is also, in terms of esports events, one of the smaller ones that you'll see that they actually have. You know what I mean? That 5,000 people. It's not a ton, but it was a good amount for the size of venue that they had, and it's obviously the amount that they were actually able to move tickets for, so good on them for making a proper estimation.
Right.
But it was great. I would definitely recommend it. If you are into esports and if you like that feel of the crowd rattling your bones.
Right.
Obviously, I was there for work, so it was a little bit different for me. I didn't get the full experience, and I was also up all night the night before. Day 1, doing research on players, up all night 2, transcribing those IX, Mike, and Ush interviews, and then writing an article for Join Dota so that there was a written version of them. And then day number 2, I was working most of the time, but I was at least in the player area, or I was at least in the crowd area, just enjoying the, the enthusiasm of the crowd.
Nice. And now, so you got to spend some time in the player area and chat with the players. I did hear a rumor that Fogged even told you at some point that he learned to ward for 6.82 off of an article that you had written, so that had to feel pretty awesome.
Yeah, he said something along the lines of, because he didn't really know who I was when we were talking. I was just sitting up there chatting with people. And that warding guide that I did for 6.82 came up, and he's like, "Oh man, I used your guide. I used your guide when 6.82 came out, and I still use it." I was like, "Oh, that's nice." It's just one of those moments that kind of made it worth it for me, because I was like working the whole time and stressed the hell out. And
Absolutely.
Fogged is like, oh yeah, the work you do gets noticed even at the professional level sometimes. And it's like, I don't know. It made it worth it for that. That was like the moment that really made it worth it for me.
So, and if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you can know it's on Join Dota still, correct? Yes.
Oh, everything I read is still on.
So you can head over to Join Dota. You can go to Join Dota and find Gorgon the Wonder Cow's article on warding in 6.82. It's actually a really good piece, even to the point where the pros have used it to sort of get their heads around the new map. So definitely go check that out. Anything else that you feel like we need to know about the ESL event? I mean.
Did you get any? I don't know what you've. I listened to the show usually, but not last Friday. Do you have any inside scoop on? You want some inside scoop on Navi US in terms of 1437? You know what he's up to?
Well, we've heard rumors that 1437 is potentially. Well, we knew he was there for a project. Mm-hmm. Based on Reddit threads, I'm fairly confident I know what's going on, but we haven't revealed it on the show. So if you've got confirmation, then go ahead and let us know, or if you have a rough idea of what's happening.
So I don't know they didn't really do a very good job of keeping it a secret because he was out on stage a couple times. I've got photos of him. So I feel pretty comfortable that I'm not ruining anything for him when I say that he was there on stage coaching Secret.
Right.
And that to be something, which is funny because Secret went up against Navi US round 1. And I was like, that's got to be, I don't know, everybody was super chill about it. But if I was like, man, if a guy was on my team, and he went to go to my round 1 opponents, and I'm already the underdog playing with a sub. That would rub me the wrong way, but everybody on Navi US was totally laughing about it and laughing it up. So they're bigger men than I am, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting because obviously you guys who are listening know that we've talked to Brax last week, and he talked a little bit about that. Mentioned that Theban was there, and partially that Theban was a little bit of the catalyst to what happened because of an injury that he took. But at the end of the day, it is strange because they're still under Navi contract, which is why Brax can't announce what he's doing with a new team, why Theban technically I don't think can come out and say he now works for Team Secret, which is probably why we haven't seen an official announcement. But it seems like the guys playing, like you said, totally know what's happening and understand it to a certain extent. So I don't know, it makes me wonder if the politics are coming out of the organizational side more than they're actually coming out of the player side.
Everybody knows what's going on between the players. Like, everybody, even guys that aren't on the U.S. side, knew what was going on. Black knew what was going on, and he's from China, so.
Absolutely.
Or he's not from China, but he's in China now. Whatever the case, it seems to be a thing. I don't know how long it will be. I don't know if he'll continue to coach after the stuff with Navi kind of falls out. I don't know if he'll end up becoming a 6 slot or if he'll stay as a coach or if he'll try to find another team at that point. Mm-hmm. But for right now, he's doing coaching on Secret and doing a bang-up job, I gotta say.
So Theban, 1437, standing in as coach for the time being. Sounds like he's going to go full based on the Brax interview that we had. Brax said that it boosted his heart just a little bit to see Navi get knocked out by Team Secret in the first round. So I'm sure he said that, and I wonder if I'm sure that there was also a little bit of that to 1437 as the team that he coached knocked out the team that voted for him not to play. Because I don't know if you caught that part of the interview or those of you who may be listening. They basically we were told that the 3 who stayed on Navi US voted for the other 2 not to play with them. So at the end of the day, I'm sure that there was a bit of sweet victory. And I'm sure that when Secret said, hey, you want to coach us? Our first game's against Navi US. That he was like, yes, I will do that. So anyway, that's the news on Theban. That's the news on ESL. Some good perspective on what happened there. I'm sorry about your microphone and your partner.
Oh my God.
Next time, just tell JD to send me out with you because I can guarantee you that I wouldn't quit after 2 hours.
I have a plan in place if there's another big event in the U.S. that they need coverage on, and they're gonna have me go out and bother getting me press stuff. I've got a whole thing in place so that we'll get better coverage. But
nice.
You guys can see the coverage that I did do. I've got a nice interview with Ix Mike and Ush in text form up on Join Dota. It's a pretty good article. You can read that. I also have 2 video interviews. The Black interview and the FNG interview are both online. The Black interview is almost 10 minutes long, so it's a pretty solid interview. It does the trick. The camera work is a little shaky, but and it's unedited. So just appreciate it unedited.
Appreciate it for what it is. Think of it as like a behind the scenes sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. You know what? And the thing is, I got on, saw that my name was not that's not my name, the name that's on there. Everybody knows me as Gorgon the Wonder Cow, so nobody at JD really knows who I am, like name wise. So they tried to edit in and put in a name, and they just didn't put in the right name. So at that moment, I knew things were going to go awry, but things were crazy at JD. You know, we had a limited number of people to try and get live counts of every game, get these interviews edited and put up. You know, we only had one person at the event actually able to functionally work and make things happen there. So, which not to undercut the contributions that Jack, the guy who put me up, made. He was tremendous, but it wasn't his job to be doing that sort of stuff.
Right.
You know.
So, well, there you have it, guys. And that's an ESL perspective. We can probably talk a little bit more on that in the next few days. I'm trying to get Ush on the show, or have been for a while, but he doesn't want to wake up early. So if you want to hear a talk back with Ush so we can hear about his journey to esports, tweet at him, let him know. I was like his 5th follower on Twitter, so I feel like he should probably come on the show.
He probably should. He should come on with Sna, and they should have some sort of a fight about, even though Sna stood in for them yesterday, so I know they're on good terms. I just want to see those two go at
it. And I heard Sna's working on a new team, so I've been trying to get Sna as well to come on and talk a little about that, because obviously, as you guys know, we've been doing more and more larger interviews, but it's important to me, just like the show is grassroots and built on the community, to make sure that we're getting newer teams, featuring amateur teams from time to time, and getting a lot of different folks onto the show. So the show's not just about the heavy hitters, it's about the community in general. So if there are amateur teams that you guys have watched or seen and you're like, these guys are up and coming, you got to check them out, Toffees. Tweet them at me. Let me know who they are. You can email them to me. Everything's on the Twitch and the YouTube for links to send me information. I'll check them out, and I'll get them on the show, because I want the people that you like to watch to be here so that you can learn more about them.
So if you guys like Snod, the former mid player from Sneaky Nix Assassins, just know, I tweeted a few days ago, one of my favorite players has good news. So he's got good news. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm not gonna ruin the surprise, because I think he is. I talked to him about getting on the show. I'm trying to do a little bit of booking for you.
Works.
And I think he's gonna be coming on. So I'm gonna leave the team announcement for him. But it's, I think, exciting news if you follow high community, low competitive level Dota. You know what I mean? Like if you follow these guys that are usually very good at CEVO and the Semi-Pro Evening Cup Series and stuff like that, this team is going to be a very high contender in that circuit, I think.
That's exciting. So we'll hopefully get him on here as Gorgon does some promotion for us, and that'll be a good one for you guys. That said, though, let's go real quick. Picks of the day. Pull up the list for you. I sent it over to you. Hopefully you grabbed them, Gorgon, but in the meantime, I'm going to say that my pick for games to watch today starts in about an hour from now, and it's going to be HGT, the Hyper Glory team, versus LGT CDEC. I think this is the most evenly matched game of the day. Both of these teams have the potential to win at any point during that match, so it's going to be a good one, and that is going to be coming to you from the Summit, which is all in full swing qualifiers now, or I should say group stages, so you should definitely check that one out. What's your pick for today, Gorgon?
Oh, geez. I'm going to have to go with Infinity Stack versus Root Gaming.
Okay.
That's going to be coming up in 9.5 hours, so that should be, whatever 9.5 hours from now is. It's too early in the morning for that. Infinity Stack is going to have Sna playing on it, because that's his new team. I didn't realize they were so soon going to be doing the Summit qualifiers. He told me they were going to be, but he did not tell me they were going to be today. So... Infinity Stack, Sna's new team, and since you can go and find the roster, I'll just tell you that it is going to be Sna, Lust, Infinity, and a couple of other guys. So
MJW Degenerate, SN7.
MJW is, I believe, Mason from eHug.
So it sounds like a pretty great roster. Should be a lot of fun to watch.
Wow, what am I doing? Yeah, you guys all know who Mason is, so I'm just gonna put my foot in it. Man, it is so early. Yeah. So Mason, Sna, Infinity, Lust, and if you guys don't know Lust and you haven't been watching North American Dota, because he subs for everybody all the time.
Everybody.
It's going to be good. And Root Gaming, one of the best up-and-coming teams out there in North America. You know what I mean? Like, they're obviously not EG level.
Right.
But they take games off the Sneaky Nix Assassins, who are up-and-coming. They take games off of North American Rejects, even when they were a 5-stack. They have not been doing so well lately, but overall, They just beat No Earth Spirit, which is the best South American team. I think most people would agree. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a very good game at a completely different level of play. That is more approachable than maybe some of the other games on the list. So
absolutely. So those are our picks for the day, guys. I think that you should enjoy that. I will say this, that as far as the Dota 2 Lounge goes, the game that you probably have the highest chance of getting a statistical or a low percentage win on is, I think that Virtus.pro could upset Na'Vi after Na'Vi coming back from some travel and other things. That's the one that I would be potentially willing to risk some rares on if I wanted a big payoff, but other than that, most of the games are syncing up exactly where I think that they would. So
I would hedge my bets on that one, guys. I've run some
stats
on Na'Vi lately, and just they didn't perform that well at ESL, but they have been killing it in 6.81. Like they won all 6 of their 6.81A matches.
Yep.
Like 6 games in 3 days, and they won every single one of them. No problem.
Yeah, statistics are definitely on their side. I only wonder, I know that they've been traveling this week, or yesterday primarily.
Yeah.
So they're coming in off of a plane. They're probably going to be a little bit lagged. If there was a reason for them to lose, that would be the only reason. So that's where I think it might be worth the risk, depending on how the travel has gone. Because as we all know, traveling can really take it out of you, especially when you're traveling back to Europe. So those are my picks for the day. Those are the games for you. A big thank you to Gorgon for being here to help us out with the show today. Obviously, guys, if you like the show, follow me on Twitter at Toffees_Dota2. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Toffees. Is a great way to show your love. Even the smallest contribution can help keep us running. Because I want to hire graphic designers, I want to build some new merchandise, I want to really kind of make this thing sing, and I don't want to bring sponsors in. So the only way that we do that is crowdsourcing, and I appreciate all of you who've already been there. That said, guys, supporter games are Tuesday night. I'm going to be doing supporter games for Patreon supporters over on this stream here, over on here on the stream. So if you want to watch the Patreon supporters get feed with me, because I'm not very good, please feel free to stop by, and maybe we'll do some viewer games after we finish up the supporter game. So you're welcome to join me for that, Gorgon, if you want, as a friend of the show. I'm sure that they'd love to have you
I'm
on
also
board.
a Patreon supporter, so screw you.
Oh,
you know what?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
I was your first Patreon supporter.
You were. You are.
I was your first guest and your first supporter. So
you're my most valuable dollar. That said, guys, do you have any last thoughts, Gorgon, before we sign out for the afternoon? Evening, morning?
Just a couple plugs. Follow me at GotCowDota. Watch SIVO tonight. We've got 2 good games coming up tonight. It's going to be Root Gaming versus Boreal Esports, and Two Fish versus Flipside Tactics, all of which are North American awesome games. That's at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And keep your eye out on High Ground TV. I'm starting to maybe get a little bit more active over there, where I'm something abstractly. I've got a team of people put together to try and get some content put together, including ML Davi, former writer for Join Dota, the guys from the Standard Deviant Stats House are going to be doing some writing for me, or for the community over on High Ground TV. The guys from Defense of the Patients are going to be doing stuff, and a whole bunch of other people, a whole bunch of other mini celebrities and very strong, content creators that aren't necessarily pro-level content creators. They make content for the community rather than content for following professional stuff. We're not going to be doing news. We're just going to be doing analysis, and Feeder Noob's going to be doing item stuff for us and all sorts of things. So I'm going to be resuming Baby Roshan as well, which is a beginner's guide to complicated things.
Okay.
Yeah, so highground.tv. Stop by there sometime in the next week and just see what we've got going on. I'm going to try and make sure that it doesn't fall apart this time. I've put some new organizational things into place to try and make sure that we get something stable for the community that doesn't want to go to a place like Join Dota and just get news. They want to go and get a more encompassing content.
Sounds pretty gosh darn good. So check that out, guys. We'll keep eyes on it over the next few weeks. I'll look forward to working that into my news rotation for tracking things. That said, thank you to the fans, thank you to Gorgon one more time, and thank you to everyone for supporting the show. You're what makes it possible. Have a wonderful day, play more Dota, and as always, guys, Toffees out.